Grade school band. The Forney Band was first organized when I was in the 4th grade. We were brought into the auditorium and given a demonstration of different band instruments by students from another school and asked to go home and talk with our parents about becoming part of the new band. I decided to play the clarinet. My first instrument was a shiny silver metal horn, rented from Brooks Mays Music Company. The band was small and they needed all the members they could get. It consisted therefore of members all the way from the 4th grade through high school. All the high school members were girls, because I assumed the boys thought it was sissy to be in a band. In the 4th grade, however, this was not a consideration, so John Bowles, myself, Aubrey Penny, Charles Futrell, almost all the guys were in the band. Our first uniforms were purchased by the band parents from funds struggled for in various money-making projects. They were cowboy outfits of gold shirts, black pants, and black cowboy hats. I had something of a talent for playing the clarinet and my proficiency increased rapidly. Seats were selected on a challenge basis. The girl who sat in the first chair, first row clarinet section was a senior in high school. Somewhere along the 7th grade, I challenged her for the chair. I won. I never lost that chair, all the way through high school. I did have one competitor though, Richard Cole, who was in the grade behind me, grew to be a healthy competitor. He challenged me several times in high school but I managed to keep my first chair. Because of our early start, we attended and marched in all the high school football games from the 4th grade on. So, when I started playing football in high school the marching was over. I had already spent 4 years marching and playing. Marching in the band. The band members were mostly young, but the majorettes were all high school girls. I have memories of cold, late, nervous nights, standing behind the goal posts, waiting for the waning moments before halftime to pass. The beautiful, big, girls in their white boots and tassels, the fear of forgetting which way to turn and stand when on the field, the shifting from foot to keep from wetting down your leg, then suddenly, the whistle that sends you marching out in front of the crowd. Remember, I was only 10 years old when marching with the band. The band bus. Riding to and from the football games on the band bus was a socially expanding experience. Sitting in the cold, dark, bouncing vehicle may not sound like fun, but crowded close for warmth, singing one song after another, telling tall tales, the trips were great fun. Also, upon occasion, some smooching in the back of the bus added adventure and learning. One of my attention-getters was doing impressions of Frankie Avalon and Paul Anka. The girls thought it was cute and I enjoyed the attention. Band festivals. In my early band years, the band festivals were the events to which we looked forward. The band would practice 2 or 3 pieces of music to be presented at the festival. The performance and competition were the reason for our attendance, but what I remember most was the solo performances and the fun. Since I was first chair, it was expected that I would play a solo in competition. This was a dreaded duty in which I did my part, and in fact, won several first-place medals. At one festival, water guns became the theme for the day. Someone purchased a water gun at the local 5 and dime store. Before long, every boy had his piece and every girl was fair game. There are always those who overdo everything. In this case, it was filling the water pistols with cheap perfume. Nothing is worse for an 11-year-old boy than smelling like a lady's powder room. Sports career. Some children develop and mature rapidly and others grow more slowly. I was a slow grower. When my first year in high school arrived, my feet were long, narrow, and flat, and my physique was somewhat unathletic. This did not discourage my participation in football and basketball, however. After sticking to it for 3 years, my senior year was rewarded with a full-time position on the starting team. This was not the case with basketball. Football was to be my only letter sport. Strange thing is that upon going to college and taking physical education, I realized that I was one of the fastest runners in a class of more than 100 guys. I had matured and developed more in the year after high school than in the previous 3. Aubrey Penny and football. My second cousin, Aubrey Penny, was a fast developer. In fact, at 15 years old he was large enough to take over the starting fullback position on the high school team. He had the glory of being a starter on the team those 4 years of high school, but I remember that he spent the minutes before every game hanging over the John, throwing up. I am adding to this paragraph now in 2015 to remember Aubrey since he passed away in about 2005. He had retired from the fire department and was about to move to property that his wife inherited from her family in Far East Texas. He had built a large metal building with an apartment so that he could stay for days at a time while continuing work on a permanent residence for him and his wife Linda. She was still working a full-time job during the week. She tried to call for several days and called a local family to check on him. They found him outside the barn, lying where he fell. His end was quick, but his life was short. Starting on the kickoffs. Throwing up before a game was no problem for me. My problem occurred out on the field. I played offensive guard and ran down on the kickoff, just like the days of marching bands. Standing out in front of the crowd, the cold, the nervous waiting, shifting from foot to foot, hoping the referee would blow the whistle signaling the kickoff before you wet down your leg in front of God and country. Glory days, scoring points. Playing offensive guard when you weigh only 150 pounds is an uphill battle even in an A-class high school. Every week it was another replay of David and Goliath. Our coach was inventive, really quite good at his job, and the small size of our line was compensated for with trap plays, double teaming, etc. I would hit them high and Wesley Crenshaw would hit them low. Next time he would go high and we would keep them guessing. Dennis McQuisition was the quarterback, John Bowles the end. We made a lot of yards passing and were undefeated my senior year. That was the year that Edgewood protested stating we were paid to play football when the quarterback club paid for a trip to a SMU game. This protest ended in several results. First, we were not allowed to play for the regional championships. Second, Edgewood played in our place, even though we beat them, and they got beat. Third, for the next 2 years, no car with Edgewood plates could pass through Forney without being assured of a traffic fine. That last game of the season with Edgewood brings back my only glory days in football. We played a crazy unbalanced line with the end lined up beside me, the guard. Our coach created this surprise play only to be used sparingly in special extra point situations. John, the end, would drop back into the backfield, leaving me, a guard, as an eligible pass receiver. The ball was snapped, I took a few steps forward, turned, and received the short pass. Would we ever use such a play? Would I, a lowly guard, ever get a chance to actually score points? It was near the end of the game, the Edgewood District Championship game, score tied, and lo and behold, they called my play. 5 steps, then turn, everything is a blur. Suddenly here comes the ball from nowhere. Just as it arrives a searing pain hits my legs, grass, mud, sweaty bodies. The ball? I still have it, we scored, I scored, we won. The pain? When turning to make the catch I had stepped in a hole, spraining both ankles, but catching the ball as I fell. What glory that night at the sock hop. On crutches with 2 sprained ankles, no dancing, but soaking up the football glory. Trip to the Chicken Ranch. Mom and Dad had lots of Aggie friends. The Criswells, the Pippins, the Ledbetters, were all Texas A&M fans for one reason or another. On the particular weekend of my sprained ankle affair, we were tripping to Aggieland for the upcoming game. The adults were having big parties in those days and we teenagers were encouraged to entertain ourselves. John had accompanied us as my guest for the weekend. Sonny Compton, Robert Venner, and Butch Ledbetter were all underclassmen at A&M. They invited John and I to go cruising with them that Saturday night. Here Les, you drive, we've been drinking all afternoon. Let's stop and get more Cokes, we got plenty of old Charter. Mix me another. Hey, don't pour that stuff all over the car. Where are we gonna go? How about Lagrange? Hey, you high schoolers ever been to Lagrange? Nope, but I heard a lot about it. I'm on crutches, I can't go there. If you can drive, you can screw. You're with us now, head em out. An hour or so later, just at dusk, I pull into the outskirts of Lagrange. The 3 Aggies are in a drunken daze in the back seat of the big Oldsmobile as I cruise into the town I had grown up hearing about. John was not in much better shape than the Aggies, so there was no one to consult with as to the whereabouts of the infamous Chicken Ranch. After a couple of passes through town, common sense soaked in, and I realized that there would be no road signs. I would have to stop and ask. The drunken Aggies were coming to life and starting to get loud. Beer and bourbon was splashed over the whole car. The fumes were so strong I was sure we would be stopped and thrown in jail at any moment. Gathering up my self-confidence and boosted by several drinks, only to kill the pain from my sprained ankles, I pulled over to the grubbiest filling station in sight. "Sir, my friends are from Texas A&M, and they asked that I drive them here to Lagrange. I am looking for, they would like, the whorehouse is about 3 miles that way son, take a left after the second bridge, you can't miss it." "Yes sir, thank you sir." 3 miles, first bridge, second bridge, where's the road we are supposed to take a left on? Turn around, look again. There is an opening between the trees, some ruts, not really a road, could this be it? These damn drunks are no help at all. A few yards into the pine forest, the road suddenly widens, then a gravel surface appears, and believe it or not, mercury vapor street lights start to line the road. A half-mile or so from the highway, a large white single-story frame building, built on pilings, appears at the end of the road. Several cars are parked in front in the large gravel parking lot. I pull in close between 2 cars, hoping somehow to hide the big old's 98. The car doors fly open, drunk Aggies tumble out and stumble through the front screen door of the Chicken Ranch. John waits a moment, then follows, leaving me alone in the car. I am curious, but more scared of being thrown in jail for whatever, and definitely satisfied to sit in the car. Just about that time, would you believe, a squad car with spotlights, big whip antennas, and a big-bellied county sheriff comes pulling right up in front of the door. I thought I was a goner for sure. He walked up on the porch, a middle-aged lady came out, and they stood conversing for several minutes. Then, my God, they both turned and looked at me. She waved her arm in a beckoning motion and said, "Come on in, son." We were so close I couldn't ignore her. I was scared, embarrassed, surprised, all at the same time. "No thanks ma'am, I can't." "Sure you can," she insists, and waves again. "I can't, I have crutches, I mean, I sprained my ankles last night." I try to hold up the end of the crutch for her to see, realizing as I do so how stupid it looks. Here I sit, 17 years old, booze on my breath, a madam summoning me inside, a sheriff standing there with jail and a cannon on his hip. He turns and heads for the car, she returns into the house. Not more than 20 minutes has passed since we arrived, and out of the house come all the Aggies and John. It took most of the trip back to Aguilin to sort out the truth of it, but for all my effort, no one had got laid. They had been too drunk to perform, or for some reason had been kicked out without doing anything. That was my one brush with the famous Chicken Ranch of Lagrange. It was later that politics would close down the establishment, creating the best little whorehouse in Texas, movies, plays, songs, etc. In one evening, I had met the sheriff and the madam firsthand. I did not, however, meet the girls.